Tonight you will go to bed behind a door that locks. If something moves outside, a wall will be in the way. For almost all of human history, none of that existed. No door, no lock, no walls. Just a person on the ground in the open, with the sky on top of them. So why would anyone lie down like that and close their eyes? How did anyone survive the night? They had no claws, no night vision, and a top speed that loses to a goose. Everything out there that wanted to eat them could see in the dark. They could not. And we know exactly how that went for some of them. There is a piece of a skull from a South African cave called Swartkrans. It is about 1.8 million years old, and it has two holes punched through the top of it, side by side. The spacing matches the canine teeth of a leopard. So how do you lie down in that world and lose consciousness for 6 hours? The obvious answer is that somebody stayed awake and kept watch. Take shifts, 2 hours each. Wake the next person. That's what almost everyone assumes. It's also wrong. In 2017, researchers strapped activity trackers to an entire hunter-gatherer camp in Tanzania and watched them sleep for 20 nights. Across all 20 nights, there were 18 minutes when everybody was asleep at the same time. 18 minutes. Nobody was assigned to keep watch. Nobody had to be. And whatever kept them alive is still happening in your house tonight. There is no single answer to this. There never is. There are 3 layers. And the last one is why your grandfather wakes at 5 without an alarm. That one's at the end. Picture the night before electricity. The sun goes down, the light goes away, everybody lies down. That's the version everyone has in their head. It's wrong, and it's wrong by about 3 hours. In 2015, a team led by Jerome Siegel at UCLA put trackers on 3 groups who live without electric light. The Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, the Tsimane in Bolivia. 3 groups on 3 continents who have never met and never heard of one another. Different languages, different ancestry, no shared history at all. So if all 3 do the same thing, that thing isn't culture. All 3 went to sleep about 3 hours after sunset. Not at sunset. 3 hours after? So what were they doing in the dark with nothing to do? Here's the part most people never think about. What do you talk about when the work is done and there is nowhere to go? In 2014, the anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She had spent years recording the actual conversations of the Juhwansi and the Kalahari. Not what they told her they talked about. What they actually said, in daylight the talk was work. Who is hunting where? Which plants are ready? Who owes what? After dark around the fire, more than 80% of it was stories. People in far-off places. Journeys. The dead. Jokes that got the whole camp laughing. Same people, same day. And the talk changed completely once the sun went down. So those 3 hours were not people lying around waiting to fall asleep. They were the only hours nobody had a job to do. Fire did not just give us warmth and cooked meat. It gave us somewhere to be after the work was finished. You have those 3 hours too. You just call it being on your phone in bed. But here's the strange part. What put them to sleep wasn't the darkness. It was the temperature. They fell asleep as the air cooled, not as the light faded. Across all 3 groups, the sleep clock tracked the thermometer, not the sun. Clouds hide the sun. Trees hide the sun. Nothing hides the cold. Not the dark. The cold. Remember that. So they went to bed 3 hours late, which means they slept in, right? No. All 3 woke before sunrise. The Hadza about an hour before the sun came up. Add it together and you get a number that ruins a story you have heard 100 times. Between 5.7 and 7 hours a night. Average 6.4. The researchers put that at the low end of what people in industrialized countries get. So the people with no lights, no clocks, and no alarms, and no mattress that costs more than a car, we're not sleeping any more than you are. Every article you have ever read about how modern life stole your sleep. That's the sound of it falling over. Somewhere, a wellness brand is quietly deleting a slide. And it gets worse for the theory. If modern life broke our sleep, who exactly is sleeping badly? The researchers asked all 3 groups whether they had trouble sleeping. About 2% said yes. In industrialized countries, the figure runs between 10 and 30%. And none of the 3 languages has a word for insomnia. They don't have the word because they don't have the problem. It is hard to complain about something your language has never needed a word for. and go back to the cold. They did not wake because it got light. They woke because the night bottomed out. Your bedroom is the same temperature at 3 in the morning as it was at 9. The drop never comes. Something in you is still waiting for it. So they went to bed late, they slept little, and they woke in the cold, none of which explains the skull. For all those hours lying in the open with no door, who is watching? Back to the obvious answer, the one everybody reaches for. A rota? Somebody sits up, watches the dark, and hands it over. Armies do it. Ships do it. Fire stations have done it since there were fire stations. But what does a night watch actually cost? It costs one person's sleep every night, forever. And the danger that watch was paying for was not theoretical. Go back to that skull from Swartkrans. It was dug up in 1949. It has a catalog number, SK54. The 2 holes in it are not somebody's reading of a myth or a cave painting. They are a bite mark, left in bone, on a relative of ours who did not make it through the night. So the stakes were exactly what you think they were, which makes what the trackers found much harder to explain. In 2017, a team led by David Sampson wired up an entire Hadza camp. Not a few volunteers. Everybody. Every night. 20 nights. If there was a watch rota, this would show it. 2-hour shifts would show up as a pattern. A designated guard would show up as one person awake all night. They found neither. No rot. No shifts. Nobody on duty. Across all 20 nights, there were 18 minutes when the whole camp was asleep at once. 18 minutes. Out of 20 nights. For 99.8% of the time they measured, at least one person was awake. The median number of people awake during the night was 8. 8 people. Up. In the dark. Doing nothing in particular. In a camp where not one of them had been told to stay awake. So how do you guard a camp with nobody on guard? Age. The older people went to bed early and woke early. The younger ones stayed up late and slept in. The ones with small children were up in the middle, for reasons every parent watching this already understands. Nobody was covering a shift. Everybody was following their own clock. And because those clocks were spread out, the camp was never all asleep at once. The group was never unguarded, because the group was never all the same age. Researchers call this the SENTINEL hypothesis. A guard rota that nobody wrote, nobody enforced, and nobody could get out of. Not one person lost a night's sleep to protect anybody. Nobody had to be talked into it, and nobody had to be thanked for it. It came free with being a group of people who were not all the same age. Now the honest part, that study is one camp 20 nights in 2017. Nobody has measured a night from 50,000 years ago, and nobody ever will. It shows the mechanism works in living hunter-gatherers. It does not show your ancestors had it. And even if they did, it was never the whole answer. Fire mattered. So did numbers and a spear within reach. A sleeping camp is a harder thing to approach than one sleeping person. How much each of those was worth, nobody can put a figure on. Somebody was awake almost all the time. Almost is not always. SK54 is what almost looks like. So how did ancient humans sleep in the open? Badly, briefly, and in the cold. 3 hours after dark, 6 hours a night, awake before the sun. And never, as far as anyone can measure, all at once. Which brings this back to your house. How many people in it are awake right now? Your grandfather wakes at 5 and cannot get back to sleep. Your teenage brother is awake at 2 and cannot be moved before noon. Somebody in your family gets up in the middle of the night, every night and always has. You have called at least one of those things a problem. They are not a problem. They are a rota. Different bodies set to different hours. Covering a night nobody ever sat down and divided up. The camp is gone. The fire is gone. The leopard is gone. Nobody needs anybody to be awake anymore. Tonight, someone in your house will wake at 3 in the morning for no reason they can name. They will lie there in the dark and call it insomnia. And they will still be listening, on the safe side of a locked door.